ever say it's a white man's religion or a black man's religion. It's a world religion. He belongs to the world.
Coronavirus officially hitting the U.S.
Today's shooting in Nashville, Tennessee.
Shots fired, shots fired. Right.
Republicans have made their choice.
Russian attacks so far this year with over 80 missiles launched.
This church is unlike anything else in Victoria. This town has struggled for so long with an overarching poisoned church culture that's cold, hostile, and quite frankly unwelcoming. So much so that even though we have the supposed common goal of reaching others for Christ, we cannibalize each other. We become hostile toward other churches, people that go to other churches, other church leaders, to the point that we even reject each other. To give an example, my wife and I were at the hardware store the other day working on building out our van, and this older gentleman approached her. When I came back over, he introduced himself as a local pastor, and essentially he saw that we were young and hip and was targeting us. So to which I introduced myself as the media production guy here at FOTC. To which the conversation immediately died. He stopped talking, turned his back on us, and walked the other direction. In that moment, it got me thinking. It made me realize that this is the type of inward, closed-off culture that the church has taken upon itself. It's like we can't let anybody new in, or anyone that goes to another church is just a tier above the devil. I would argue that this is one of the main reasons that the church as a whole is dying. This isn't just a localized issue in Victoria. As my wife and I have been traveling on our honeymoon, we've driven about 4,000 miles so far. We've been playing a game called Spot the Church. Excluding the really small towns, we've counted a grand total of like 6 churches. Pause for a second. Is what I'm saying actually true? Is the church dying? Barno Research conducted a study over the last 20 years, and according to this graph, the percentage of the population of practicing Christians almost halved itself across all metrics, whereas the study further shows this metric hit the millennial generation harder than any other. The church is dying, and it's a nationwide issue. This closed inward church culture is the reason why more churches close their doors per year than there are churches planted. The modern church has become complacent and comfortable, and the reality is that it would rather die than burst its own comfortable social bubble. At FOTC, we're doing our best to set ourselves apart from that cold inward facing church culture that's killing the church. Before changing our name to Fellowship of the Crossroads, we were formerly known as Renegade Church because that's what we are. A renegade is someone who, be it socially or methodically, goes against the norm. By that definition, Jesus himself was a renegade in his time. Jesus is often depicted as this timid, soft-spoken guy, as in the images that you are probably seeing here on screen. But we believe that these would be false depictions of Jesus, whereas I believe these images here are more accurate to who Jesus is and wants us to be as a church. Jesus was a warrior. Jesus was fearless. This is a guy that did not tolerate the tarnishing of God's name in any way, shape, or form. He stood against the religious leaders of his time that were stuck in the dogma of power, rules, and control for the sake of control. But he was also kind, compassionate, and took in the sick, widowed, and orphaned, and wait for it, social outcast. The very people that many churches fear and reject because they would make the people in the church uncomfortable. Thus, Fellowship at the Crossroads is a church that is renegade, renegade for Christ. Okay, right, but what exactly does that mean? We're setting out to fulfill the Great Commission, as Matthew 28 states, to set out and grow the families within the church, spur them to action to be better today than yesterday, better tomorrow than today, and better be more like Jesus. To live out Jesus on a daily basis to each and every person that they encounter. To create an encounter of Christ-like joy to those around us. God has brought together an incredible team of pastoral leaders to Victoria. Senior pastor Bard Letzinger, a former small groups pastor of what was the 13th largest church in America when he was on staff, specializing in the teachings of Charles Ryrie, one of the greatest theological minds of the 20th century. Leadership pastor Scott Weatherford, a man who God has used to take the likes of churches numbering in the dozens upon his arrival and growing them into churches, ultimately ministering to thousands of people per weekend. Or take our executive pastor, Clayton Rhodes, one of the former leading figures at East West Ministries, which, if you're unfamiliar with, is one of the largest Western-based missionary organizations in the world. Then we have our worship pastor, Skip Moseshek, a recovering drug addict. Okay, he's not recovering anymore, he is recovered. When Skip came forward to the staff several years ago and told them that he was struggling, he wasn't fired. Instead, he was pulled in, held tight, and supported as he worked to overcome his addiction, because that's how Jesus would have handled the situation. And now, Skip's greatest struggle is his biggest asset, his biggest life ministry. This team of pastors knows how to grow people, not just put on a show on Sunday morning. For them, teaching, pouring into people is a passion, more like a calling. Right now, Fellowship at the Crossroads is growing exponentially and life change is happening. God is doing big things here, and we want you to be a part of it because revival is coming. Young people are seeking truth and purpose, and we're seeing it across multiple universities such as Osbury in Kentucky. Worship sessions that have gone on for days to weeks at a time, and some of which are still ongoing as of the recording of this video. As someone in my mid-20s and as a newlywed, as someone who's soon to try and bring children of my own into this world, and calm down, church, this is not a pregnancy announcement. With all the scary things going on in this world, such as war, racism, chaos, and instability, all on the rise, banks failing, this is unquestionably the church that I want to be at. This is where I want to raise my kids. This is where I know that I have spiritual leaders that will unquestionably help me be a better husband, a better dad to my future kids, and have the people around me to help me be more like Jesus to everybody that I encounter. As I was writing the script for this video, I wasn't sure whether or not this was going to be more of a who we are or a state of the church type of video. So it's turned into a little bit of both. The church across America is dying due to the reason of turning inward, choosing to remain comfortable, and refusing to reach out to the people that need it most, to be Jesus to the world. The next generation are seeking truth and purpose. Those that have found it are pushing for revival, and the sparks of that revival are igniting. This church, Fellowship at the Crossroads in Victoria, Texas, has two choices. Be like the large majority of the church in America, turn inward and die a slow, comfortable death, or fan the spark of the coming revival. This staff is ready and equipped to be the latter, but the reality is that we're only just a few families. This is where it falls to you. Are you, the people of Fellowship at the Crossroads of Victoria, Texas, of all places, ready to step up, get involved, and bring revival to this city, this county, this state, in this nation.
Hey church, so if you enjoyed this video, we've got more full-length and short-form content coming to you on our FOTC.church YouTube and TikTok pages. And in fact, this video is what's officially launching that. This week we'll be releasing podcast clips from Pastor Scott and Bart on our shorts page, as well as the next full-length video that I'm working on right now is going to be called The Gay Issue in America. Now, it's really clickbaity, that sounds really inflammatory. Hear me out for a second. I've been reading this book called Heavy Burdens, 7 Ways that LGBTQ Christians Experience Harm in the Church. I think in our modern day culture with the current wave of the LGBT movement, the church is very clueless on how to handle people who identify as such. We don't do a very good job of showing love to people who really need it. This is something that I've honestly been thinking about and quite passionate about for years. And I think it's time that we had a real discussion about it in the church. So stay tuned for that video and more coming to you on our FOTC.church YouTube and TikTok pages. We'll see you there.